Welcome to my YouTube channel. It's been a while since my last video. I have an EVE Online video for you, and more specifically for the current running event, the Crimson Harvest, and more specifically the Tempest fleet issue. This is the ship that I'm using for these sites. It looks a bit of a strange choice because the Tempest fleet issue is a very inconspicuous ship. There's barely any footage on YouTube. Yeah, strange. This ship is very old, but there's barely anything about or that you can find on this ship. The reason why I chose this one is twofold. First, the Marauders and some crazy Tech 3 fitted ships are the best choice for this event. The problem is these Marauders and these crazy Tech 3 fitted ships, they cost a lot of ISK, billions and billions, and this is a PvP oriented event. Yes, 90% chance for your loot to drop in case of destruction of your ships, so you already guessed that all the gankers here are whirling their hands with a cackling glee. So that's why I chose a more modest ship. This ship is alpha friendly. Yeah, that's important. You may use this ship with my fitting in alpha. If I made a mistake, please leave a comment. So let's go to the fitting. It's all about tracking. What I noticed in these events and also the previous editions, many people focus on damage and not on tracking. If you use a battleship, the smaller vessels tend to fly under your guns, and you waste a lot of time on these smaller critters. Whilst, yeah, you want to focus on the boss because the player that deals the most damage on the boss owns the wreck, but it happens rarely. Yeah, just don't come with something that is shiny and is a magnet to other people. So it rigs a large projectile metastasis adjuster. I want the extra tracking. 2 large capacitor control circuits too. They cost quite a lot, but I'm producing them myself, so for me it was free. Then the guns, the smallest caliber guns for this ship, 425mm autocannons, and I use the Scout version, not the Tech 2s. I don't intend to use faction or specialized ammo, so I have faction ammo with me in case of problems, but this is intended to just use the regular Tech 1 EMP ammo. This type of gun is best for or has the best stats for tracking, because my threshold, the threshold that I found for this event, if you want to have good application on the smaller vessels and save time by killing them fast, you need a tracking of 10. I have a Salvager, I have a tractor beam, so in case the boss is killed, just tractor beam the can so nobody can steal it. Then a Salvager. These mid slots, I have a Stasis Grappler. There's no need for Tech 2 versions, costs just more, has no real benefit. 2 Tech 2 cap batteries. Tech 1 web for 10 kilometers and less to slow down the frigs, and a tracking computer with a tracking speed script, and that is enough tracking for the smaller vessels. Damage control 2, yes, mandatory, because this is an armor tank ship. That's the reason why I chose the Tempest fleet issue, I forgot to mention it in the beginning, but it has an extra low slot, so it allows for an armor tank, and I prefer for this type of event an armor tank. Yeah, it's always a bit a problem with Minmatar ships. You don't know, should I sheet tank or should I armor tank, but definitely an armor tank on this thing. 3 Gyrostabilizers. I have an extra explosive protection because for this event an Omni tank is preferred. You see the resistance profile is decent for this type of event. This fit is for the Crimson sites, so I chose to side with Tetrimon. I need to make a separate video and make small adjustments for the Tetrimon sites. So in case that you choose to work for the Blood Raiders, you have to run or you will want to run the Tetrimon sites, but they are more difficult and there are some differences. But here the explosive or the extra protection for explosive damage is necessary. Then 3 Gyrostabilizer II, Multispectrum, and a large armor repairer too. So that being said, a pretty cheap ship, relatively easy to use. So alpha players, I invite them to test this out and tell me what you think about it. I will show you a short demonstration, or I show you one site that I did with this ship and this fitting, and it's the Crimson Harvest site. So here we are in the Crimson Gauntlet, or about to enter the Crimson Gauntlet. So I chose to side with the Tetrimon, and then it means that the Crimson Gauntlets are the sites that I want to do to get my rewards. If you choose to side with the Blood Raiders, you have to look out for the Tetrimon sites. Now there's a difference between both of them. For the Tetrimon sites, I found them more difficult. I think I will make a separate video on that one, because I have to adapt my Tempest fleet issue fit for the Tetrimon sites. You have to make small adjustments, but I feel that the Tetrimon sites are more difficult than the Crimson Gauntlets. And so you see, upon arrival, I use my Grappler on the rats that are incoming. This guy is within 10 kilometers, so I double web him, or I grapple him, 2 volleys. So it's always a good feeling that those annoying frigates that tend to fly under your guns, or battleship guns, that they go down so quickly. So this Shepherd, you see, once the speed of the rat drops below 50, you have full application. That's a bit the magic number for the smaller vessels. If the speed drops below 50, then you have the tracking that works at 100%. It's just by experience that I see that the speed of 50 meters a second is a bit the threshold. And now these profits, okay, in this wave, 3 profits. It's always useful to use the Grappler on these targets that are beyond 10 kilometers. That's because it reduces their speed and it helps for the tracking. I noticed a difference in shooting these rats with the Grappler active and without the Grappler active, so use it. It doesn't use that much cap. This ship is very cap stable, you should be able to work with the Grappler and the Weber constantly active. Also the tank, you see, beginning I forgot to repair a bit, but it's not really tested, the tank. And also the profit goes down relatively fast for a ship that deals 700 DPS, which is not a lot for a battleship. So the gate becomes active. If you have a key, I recommend to use it. Now you can also go for the bounties, because the Crimson sites have very nice bounties on the enemies, so if you want to collect some bounties, why not? And in between the gates, reload your guns. Yeah, you see I load 200 rounds every time, so that is more than enough to finish one room with different waves. So the frigates are the ones that come in first. There's no need for preheating and all that kind of stuff. Don't drop an MTU, because that attracts unwanted visitors. See, the Shepherd goes down in one volley. It was not the Shepherd, it was another one. And there the resistant profile. So armor-wise, not too much difference. I think the cruisers, the differences in the armor resistances are even less pronounced. The shield, yeah, you want to use EM and thermal, but the Crimson enemies are armor tanked. So it doesn't really matter what damage type you use. If you use the damage type that is suited for your ship, or if you have a ship that has a bonus to a certain damage type, use it. The incoming damage, you see EM, see even a little bit kinetic, explosive, thermal. The focus is on EM though, so make sure that you have good resistances for EM, but an Omni tank is advised. So reactive armor hardness, I think in the previous year it was worth it to use a reactive armor hardener, but I don't think this is a good choice here in the 2024 edition. They're the diviners, so I think in this video I only showed one damage profile, but there are differences between the ships, but in general you have, or you will want to have, a good or best resistance against EM, preferably an Omni tank, and damage dealing, EM and thermal are the best, but the others work well. There's not too much difficulties on that part. Now for Tempest Fleet issue, of course, EMP large is the damage type that you want, or the ammo that you want to use. And there you see one of the drawbacks of using those small caliber guns. You see how much ammo am I wasting. So EMP, I have a blueprint, I am producing it myself, because that type of ammo is now very highly priced. I strongly advise to produce your own EMP ammo, if you of course fly Minmatar ships. I'm not using faction ammo. And you see here, I'm struggling a little bit. So the gate is not opening, it doesn't really matter, but when a wave finishes in the second room, you will want to be aligned with the gate, because sometimes, and I think the previous site that I had this issue, the gate opened pretty quick, but I was not aligned, and by the time I was aligned, the new wave came in, and of course I was scrammed and pointed, and I had to shoot almost every red to get through. So you can save a lot of time if you pay attention to the gate. This is also the most dangerous room if you encountered double waves, and this happens. This is not a bug. This is implemented by design. Sometimes you get double waves. I had one in the previous site. It was of course more difficult, but my tank wasn't really tested. There was no need for panic. In the Tetrimon it was something else. I think I will make a separate video for the Tetrimon sites, because the E-War is different, the behavior of the rats is different, the damage profile is more or less the same, but I find the Tetrimon sites more difficult than the Crimson sites. But I did this, or I do both sites in this Tempest fleet issue, but with slight modifications in the fitting. So here the Savior, see again, the speed drops below 50 and the application skyrockets. And yeah, maybe I'm repeating myself, but the targets beyond 10 kilometers, so beyond the range of my web, use the Grappler. It helps. Because this Sage, yeah, it's pretty tanky. I find the Crimson, in fact the Blood Raiders, they have a better hull tank compared to the Tetrimon. Yeah, but you also see the reps, not the reps, but the Rex drop loot, but I'm not deploying an MTU. Dropping or deploying an MTU is asking for unwanted guests. And I don't want that, because this is a PvP oriented event. There is a 90% chance for your loot dropping in case of your ship being destroyed. So the gankers are rejoicing this kind of event. So here you see the gate became active, but there was a rat left with who that was pointing me. So it doesn't really matter, there's no new wave incoming, but this is a situation that you want to anticipate. And now let's go to the third room. In the third room there is no gate, so you just sit still. Orbiting the beacon creates more transversal. So don't orbit, just sit still. If there's only cruisers left or higher, then you can maybe orbit to mitigate a little bit of the damage. But as long as the frigates and the destroyers are alive, just sit still. Let's see how this Shepherd does. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he's still moving at more than 500 meters a second. Now he's within range of my web. That's a difficult target. You see how much ammo I wasted on this guy? And now the Harvest Follower. Now everything is at the preferred orbit range. 1 volley. So the first rat that you kill is always a little bit more difficult than the other ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this should be 1 volley. Yes. Maybe the first one missed, but okay, let's see how it works on this cleric. He's within 10 kilometers, so 3 volleys only. That's the big benefit of the Tempest feat issue. I found the application on the smaller critters so good, and it compensates for the time that you waste on the larger targets, because again, 700 DPS on a battleship is not really spectacular. What I want to emphasize again is the fact I am not using any bonus. So I'm not using faction ammo, I'm not using a booster, not using a drug, not having bonuses from a buddy, you know, command links, no faction ammo, no implants. So you can use all of that. It makes a difference, especially for the alpha players, because the character that I'm using here, yeah, it's quite old, has all of the support and the combat and the fitting skills maxed out or virtually maxed out. Alpha players very often don't have the optimal skills trained or trained to optimal. So you will want to use the boosters for sure. There's a lot of them coming on the market. The prices are dropping pretty fast. Should be no real issue. The only thing that becomes more expensive is the ammo. And of course the ships, because this Tempest fleet issue, I purchased it a few months ago. It was less than 500 million. And now it's already 700 million, the initial rush. It was difficult to find sites because everyone was rushing these. But let's focus again on the rats, so that exsanguinator. Yeah, a frigate at pretty far distance. One benefit from the Crimson sites, in the Crimson sites there is no tracking disruption, there is no missile guiding disruption. Because, maybe you saw it, the range of my guns, or the fall-off range, reaches 24 kilometers, which is not a lot. So if they are tracking disrupting you, you might have not the range for the rats beyond 15 kilometers. But that's something that happens in the Tetrimon sites. This is Crimson site. Also you see the nooting, even the cruisers, they don't noot a lot. That's something that I've noticed. The Tetrimon sites, the nooting is much harder than here. So I did not focus so much on the sages. But if you have a wave with a lot of sages, you will want to kill them first. So now it's only waiting for the boss. Let's attract his attention by firing or launching some fireworks. It's a fit that I took from last year's Winter Nexus, so that's the reason why I am not, or I'm not using the optimized fitting, or the fitting that I've showed you I've ditched it. The firework launcher for a Salvager. Not that it helps killing the rats faster, but okay. It is what it is. So you see, it goes pretty smooth in the video. Drones, don't use drones except for the final boss, and only if he's targeting you. You see here his damage profile. You see armor-wise, barely any difference. Shield, okay, more pronounced, but that thing has barely any shield. So that's another proof that any damage type will work. Let's see what damage he deals. Yeah, EM, thermal. EM thermal, I think I saw only EM thermal in that window, I forgot. But again, that's a proof that you need an Omni tank, but with a slight focus on EM. Now it's just waiting for the loot. That's it. Drones in, claim the reward, loot the wreck, and collect your points. For Omega players, there's quite a lot of rewards that you get. And good rewards. You see that Overseer Sabic Vial, it's worth 1 million a piece, so it replaces a little bit the Overseer effects, and yeah, that's a bit the bad thing about this event. A lot of skins, okay, it's nice, but I already have them.